Hi, I'm Mike, owner of The In Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm going to do a review and comparison of some Sade albums. This isn't going to be like my typical normal review. I'm going to kind of lump up what I have and kind of go over kind of my general thoughts on the albums, what I think is best. But unlike my normal reviews where I drill down on 20 or 30 different pressings of each album, I just don't have that much Sade in my collection. But as you guys know, we finally got the Sade box set this far in the store this week after finally waiting, 6 months? It was supposed to come out in October. It was pushed back to February. Then it was pushed back till April. Then I was told in April that it wasn't coming at all. They didn't have a deadline on it. And then late April it showed up. So I got home, started listening to the box, and I kind of thought to myself, like when I get any album I really dig, I have so many different pressings of a lot of records that you kind of typically find the one that's the best, and that's what you listen to. So just like I do with most albums, I started drilling down on the versions of this, of each album that I wanted to listen to. And I figured I'd share my thoughts with you on it. So I'll start by saying that the box set is actually quite nice. For what you're getting all 6 of her studio albums. And the main thing you're getting is not just all 6 of her studio albums, but you're getting the hard-to-find studio albums. Soldier of Love, which goes for $100+ now. Lovers Rock, also go for hundreds of dollars. And Love Deluxe, which again goes for big money. So before this box set, if you wanted those 3 albums, you were going to pay $120, $130 a record. For just those 3 albums, it was going to cost you $400. And that's on the very, very low end of it. By the time you add in shipping or whatnot, depending on where you live around the world, you're probably paying more towards $500 for those 3 albums. So the box set was fantastic. It actually put Sade into the marketplace, and it needed to be. None of her stuff is in print. The last people to do anything Sade related was Music on Vinyl and Audio Fidelity. Those are the last folks that actually had Sade in print. So let's talk about her first album, Diamond Life. This is an exceptionally well-recorded record. This is a true demo disc through and through. The sound on this is fantastic. The mastering on this is fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about what I have for this album. This is a first US pressing. Then I've got the Steve Hoffman, Kevin Gray analog cut Audio Fidelity pressing. You could tell by the label there. Audio Fidelity, a now defunct, out-of-business company. Went out of business maybe about 5 years ago. A UK pressing of the album, and then another UK pressing of the album. So I've got 2 different UK pressings of it. And let's see here. Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to talk too much about the UK pressing because the UK pressing is quite different than all the other pressings that have come out. The mix on some of the tracks is totally different. The biggest example is Smooth Operator. Her voice isn't double tracked. There's added percussion. There's a lot more reverb on the version there's more reverb on the US version. The version that became a hit with that album was the US cut. So what you get with that is more reverb, her voice is double tracked, there's added percussion. When you listen to the UK version of the album where, it was released first, it's more of got a demo type quality to it. It almost sounds incomplete. Maybe that's just me after listening to the other version for so many years, so many different times. It kind of gives me the unfinished vibe. It's nice in a sense that it's a lot more, it's not nearly as produced. It is, kind of has a more laid-back vibe to it. But I've kind of left that out. It is a great sounding record. Okay, so what do I listen to when I go to listen to Diamond Life? Well, I listen to the Audio Fidelity version. The reason being, there's much more definition to her voice. It comes across clearer. There's more magic to it. Better instrument separation. The vinyl is nice and quiet, but the original is really nice and quiet too. It was pressed really, really well. All of her albums from the 80s were as well. Weird anomaly on this, but Cherry Pie is missing like 3 or 4 seconds of it though. So, you know, there's that snare intro on Cherry Pie. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, the very first maybe 3 or 4 seconds of that song is missing. Kind of, when I first heard it, I was wondering what went on. You know, it claims on the back it's analog pressing. Who knows if it's from a master tape? I don't know if they use the original master tapes with this. It sounds really, really good though. Overall, this is the best pressing. Even with the little anomaly on the Cherry Pie, I truly feel for the first album, this is the better overall presentation of this album. Now, if I had a nice, real clean copy of Diamond Life, a US pressing of it, would I go out and seek the Audio Fidelity version now that it's a couple $100 record? No, I don't think so. I mean, it is extremely, extremely close. Unlike most albums that came out in the 70s and the early 80s, these were done exceptionally well, and they really got it right the first time. Fantastic. So that is kind of the gist for that album. Now, when it comes to the box set, so what's weird about Sade's catalog is the last 3 albums that were released, I had listened to quite a bit digitally. And they have a very digital, very compressed, very modern CD sound. It's awful. I've never liked the last 3 albums, sound-wise. To me, the songs were great, but it was always hard for me to get into them because they had a really harsh sound to them. So that is something that has been corrected with the box set. The last 3 albums, and I'll get right to the point on the last 3 albums. Now, this is only comparing what I have. So when it comes to, for instance, Love Deluxe, this is the music on vinyl pressing. The music on vinyl pressing sounds very, very similar to the CD that I have. Or the CD file, I should say. I don't really own any CDs, some audiophile CDs, but I've got a CD file on a media server, and it has a very modern compressed sound. And the music on vinyl kind of replicates that pretty well. Not as bad, but it's kind of very similar. When you get the record out of the box set, it has a very laid-back, you know, they've kind of taken away all of that modern CD compressed sound is gone. This album to me now is so much more enjoyable with this new box set version. Real nice, textured cover. You know, they did a fantastic job on it. And I gotta say, overall, this box set is definitely worth the money just for the last 3 albums. Because the last 3 albums, this is the best I've ever heard it. Whether it's CD, high res, you name it, these are the absolute best I've ever heard these last 3 albums sound. Now, my original 3 albums, besides my digital counterparts, my originals of these 3 albums, they're all the music on vinyl issues. I don't have any of the original US or UK issues to compare it to, but like I said, this is not a traditional shootout video for me. I kind of wanted to tell you my thoughts on the box set. Traditional shootout video, I'd get down into the weeds with every single record. Okay, so I could tell you this. When I'm listening to these 3 albums, and I'm going to go back and kind of explore these albums a lot more than I ever have in the past, because to me they're so much more enjoyable now. But the box set versions of these 3 albums are just going to be my go-to now. So they're fantastic. They're all on like a linen type of paper. The quality of them is really nice. Mine had no flaws, no damage to them. They were really, really good. Worth the money for the box set. Now, when it comes to the first 3 albums, I don't think I'll ever listen to them again as far as the box set goes, because there's other versions that are quite better. You know, I'm not a fan of the music on vinyl versions of the earlier albums that they did, but I would listen to, like I said, my Audio Fidelity of Diamond Life, or even the original. The original sounds fantastic. Same thing goes with Stronger Than Pride. I'm a fan of the Audio Fidelity pressings. They did an exceptional job on them. It's unfortunate that, you know, hindsight being 2020, you guys got to go back if you don't own these things and you want the best sounding version that I know of. You got to go back and pay some stupid money for them. But Stronger Than Pride, fantastic. You know, again, an original US pressing of this record sounds absolutely fantastic. These albums were all really, really well done. I mean, I have nice, clean originals of all these, and they just sound great. Promise, same thing. I'm a fan of the audio fidelity versions. It's kind of weird when I look at when I listen to the box set to me, it cleaned up so nicely everything that was wrong, in my opinion, with the last 3 albums. But it kind of made the older albums, in my opinion, have a little bit more modern sound to them. And I didn't really dig that. So I would go, personally, if you've got just, got Sade records aren't cheap anymore, but even a clean copy, you're probably going to pay $25 of all her records now, for the 80s albums. But I got to say, overall, with all 3 of these albums, I would be either audio fidelity, if you got it, or the originals are absolutely fantastic. But again, I don't know if any of those are necessarily worth hunting down the audio fidelities, unless you're a major fan. I'm a big fan. I had to have the audio, but I had the audio fidelities, I guess, when they came out. Funny story with Stranger Than Pride. So I made a mistake, and not Stranger Than Pride, Stronger Than Pride, excuse me. No, it wasn't Stronger Than Pride. It was Promise. It was one of the two. I'm not 100% sure. So I was doing an order for my, one of my vendors, order an audio fidelity, and I fat fingered the order. And instead of ordering like 4, I ordered like 44. And I want to say they sat, I didn't sell a copy of that album, and they were $30 at the time, if I remember. $30 at the time. I didn't sell a copy of that album for maybe 3 years. Now, this was probably 2016, 2017. I had a couple copies in the bin. Then one day somebody came in and like, wow, I can't believe you have this. This is like a $100 album. And I'm like, boy, that's fantastic if it is, because I have like 40 of them. I haven't been able to sell them for years. And then, ironically, I took them out of the bin. He bought the copy at 30. I took it out of the bin. I looked it up. It was like $125 at that point. I put it on the wall behind the counter. And now, as a wall record, it started selling like crazy. Don't have any more, now. But it sold like crazy at $125. Couldn't sell it at all for $30. Go figure on that one. But audio fidelity for me, or the original pressings, US pressings, they're the way to go on those first 3 albums. The box set is great though. It's under $200. It includes all her 6 albums. If you've got the box set, you've probably seen there is a foam insert on it with a question mark. And it is about the size of another album. So essentially, I'm assuming what they're saying here is, another album could go in here. So all 6 albums fit in there perfectly with space for a 7th. Truly hope we see another Sade album real soon. Word is she's working on one. But yeah, so, I'm kind of curious of what some of those other albums, I'm kind of curious what Love Deluxe sounds like, the original 90s pressing, before, the CD wars started smashing music to bits and just compressing everything. My assumption is that early 90s pressing might actually sound pretty good at this album. But I don't know, there was not a lot of effort put into vinyl in the 90s. Most records that I've listened to from the 90s actually sound pretty crummy, despite how valuable they are, how desirable they are. They're valuable and desirable because they're rare. Nobody was buying records in the 90s. I'd never even seen new records in my hometown in the 90s. You would go into the local, I think we had Camelot Music. Maybe you've seen a vinyl pressing of Abbey Road or something of that nature, but there was no, I didn't see even the stuff that's common from the 90s, Pearl Jam and stuff of that nature. I never saw that growing up. So 90s pressings, typically not that good sound quality wise, but they're rare, they're desirable. A lot of great music came out in the 90s. Those were the first pressings. People are going to want them. But I really do want to dig through her catalog a little more, and maybe I'll try to do a more in-depth version of one of these videos in the future as I start accumulating more copies. I would say her early stuff, because in my opinion they're her better albums, I have the most of. But yeah, check us out online, guys, www.theingroove.com. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram. Until next time.